Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Bit.
That as far as they are concerned, Desmond Bishop is a very black name.
I might come up with like a catchy phrase, but, sometimes there's like extra stories to bits or stories that only work when you have the background information of the bit. And I thought of one, and then I thought, you know what? Let me actually do this on the regular. Now, I just released the special, and this does not require you to watch the special, but this will be better if you have seen the original bit, because I'm not going to show the whole bit because it's quite long. So anyway, I have a bit in the special about having a black name, Desmond Bishop, but it's a long. Actually, it's kind of like the me going for a vaccine my first vaccine appointment is the kind of like overarching umbrella that encapsulates quite a long routine. It's actually, I think it's 12 minutes in the special that begins with a story about me going for a vaccine, or actually calling for a vaccine appointment.
I called the number and a woman answers, to my surprise. She said, "What's your name, sir?" I said, "Desmond Bishop."
Which introduces actually some very old jokes about my name being Desmond Bishop.
There were no Desmonds in Flushing, Queens. The only Desmond anybody knew was Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. He was a great man. He won a Nobel Prize, but he was my nemesis because when you file my name, it becomes Bishop Desmond. And in St. Kevin's School in Flushing, Queens, they would always read out the names in alphabetical order. So the teacher would say, Bishop Desmond, and somebody would go, Tutu! And I became fucking Tutu all throughout the 1980s. I did not want to be called Tutu, so I hated my name.
That is 100% true. People did used to call me Tutu. I got made fun of a lot for having the same name as Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So there's no hyperbole there. And it is true that I hated my name. I hated having a unique name. And it is also true that I liked when I moved to Ireland and Desmond, but most people say Des, was a normal name.
Then I moved to Ireland, where there are Desmonds everywhere. Suddenly I had a normal name.
I actually liked having like not an abnormal name. So obviously if there's any Jamaican people watching this, you're probably thinking, but Desmond is not an abnormal name.
So for the first time in my life, I'm performing here at the Comedy Cellar with a lot of black comics. Not a lot of diversity in the Irish comedy scene. Here, a lot of black comics, love working with them, and every single one that I met told me that as far as they are concerned, Desmond Bishop is a very black name.
And I did not know that to black people, Desmond Bishop sounds like a black name to them. I did know that there was a sitcom it was on in the UK, actually. When I was living in Ireland, it would come on TV sometimes, but it was like a Jamaican family. I can't remember if they were set in England, but they were a Jamaican family, and it was called Desmonds. It was one, other than Archbishop Desmond Tutu, it was one of the only times and Desmond Decker and the Aces, it was one of the only times I had seen my name like in sort of, I guess, popular culture. Anyway, not to name drop, but this bit about black comics in New York telling me that I had a black name, that's really 100% true. But the main guy was Michael Che. I don't think he'll mind me name dropping him. And the reason why I bring him up is because still to this day, he always greets me by saying Desmond in kind of like a Jamaican accent. So he has continued with the awareness that Desmond is pretty much a Jamaican name. And I'd also like to point out that I think black people think Bishop is kind of like a name that a black guy could have. Jamie Foxx, it turns out, his real last name is Bishop, which I never knew. And as I say in the bit...
Now, I never knew I had a black name. I knew that Desmond Bishop was a linebacker for the Green Bay Packers because every time he fucked up about 12 years ago, my Twitter would light up with angry people from Wisconsin being like, "You fat fuck, you should have blocked that guy." And I'd be like, "That's not me. I'm a skinny white guy. That's Des Bishop 55. If you want to find him, he's Des Bishop 55.
I did know about Desmond Bishop, the linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. I actually can't remember what year he played in the Super Bowl, but I just remember, because I was already pretty well known in Ireland at that time, I just remember my Twitter was really active. Like I say it in the special, and again, it's 100% true. In fact, there has been no exaggeration in this entire bit. I haven't even talked about the circumcision bit. Ignore that. You can see that in the special, but even that's not an exaggeration. It's just all truth. This is all just comedic representations of 100% truth. But the Desmond Bishop thing, also 100% true. I really did get a lot of people coming at me on Twitter about stuff that Des Bishop 55 was doing, because that is his Twitter. He's a real guy. So anyway, so all that is true. Here's one exaggeration that's in the bit.
But then funny shit would happen. Like, black people come up to me after a show here at the Cellar, and they'd be like, yo, man, you're funny. I seen your name on the lineup. I never heard of you. I thought you were going to be black. You walked on stage. I was like, this motherfucker funny, but he got a black name.
I've never had a member of the audience really come up to me and say, you have a black name. That's a little bit of hyperbole there, just to kind of accentuate the reality of the fact that black people think I have a black name. So that's a little bit, but I feel like that's partially based in truth. And then the most important bit of hyperbole, I guess I'm kind of ratting myself out here, but I think it's very hard to find a true good punchline without having some sort of, like little adjustment of the truth. So I'll tell you where the inspiration came from. So the real punch of the black name bit.
Fun fact about me, I have a black name. Never mattered in my life. Never been an issue until I called 1-877 New York State Vax. The woman on the line answered the phone. She said, what's your name, sir? I said, Desmond Bishop. And she said, don't worry, brother, we're going to get you a vaccine. It was a dilemma for me, man. Because I've been refreshing for days. I was pretty fucking sick and not being able to get an appointment. So I was like, thank you, sister. It's been hard out there. It's been hard out there. Shit. There's a lot of hesitancy in our community. I'm going to spread the good word. Shit.
Because this is about the truth behind the bits. So everything is true except the woman on the phone didn't think I had a black name. Now, I have to admit that I always had an assumption that the woman on the phone was black. I hands up, that's an assumption that I made. She was awesome. And in truth, we really did kind of hit it off. And the reason why I got the idea of her saying, don't worry, we're going to get you a vaccine, is because that actually is true. Because what actually happened was, she said, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm a stand-up comedian. And she was like, oh my God, I love to laugh. And she was so into the fact that I was a comedian and we were having so much fun together that she actually said, don't worry, stay on this phone. I'm going to get you an appointment. So the only hyperbole in the bit is that it was based on my name, which of course that's a huge dishonesty if I was a journalist. And obviously some people might bring up like the arguments around Hassan Minhaj, but I think that's an argument you guys can have in the comments. But I think it's a fair enough bending of the truth, just because it's essentially it's a joke about having a black name. It needs a punchline somewhere, and that's really it. But this is the reason why I actually wanted to talk about this story. Because Hannah Burner is my wife, and we were having dinner about, I guess, like a year and a half ago. We were having dinner in a restaurant on the west side of New York. And the quick version is, I thought I was having a heart attack. I really felt like I was about to faint. So, long story short, I lay down. This is one of these restaurants that like, the two seats against the wall are like a bench. So I lay down on the wall. Now, there was an elderly black couple. Well, sorry, elderly, like black couple maybe in their upper 60s, low 70s, next to us. And this woman particularly got very involved very quickly, and she was very helpful, right? So she was very concerned, and I was lying down basically right next to her with like my head, the back of my head facing her, so we were very close. And she was like, "We got to keep you talking, man. We got to keep you talking." Right? Don't fall asleep on me. You know, it was like that dramatic, right? And now I gotta put a disclaimer on this. You guys are gonna think that this is made up. You're actually gonna think that there's no way that this happened like this. But I beg you to believe me. In a bit about the truth behind routines, I've been deeply honest about what is a stretch and what isn't. This is exactly how it happened. Okay? Now that you know about my two jokes, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and people thinking I have a black name, this black woman goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Desmond Bishop." And she goes, "That's my grandson's name." That's my grandson's name. And I said, I said, "That's funny because I actually have a routine." I actually said to her, I was like, "Oh, it's funny. I'm a comedian and I have a joke that black people always think I have a black name." And the man, her husband, that she was with, you're going to think this is a lie. You're actually going to think this is a lie. The husband goes, "We named him, or he was named after Archbishop Desmond Tutu." I swear to God, if I was having a heart attack, I came out of it. That was like the electric shock to my chest. I couldn't believe it. I literally couldn't believe it. I was dying, man. I was dying. Anyway, the rest of the story's really not that funny, other than there's one other hilarious coincidence about the heart attack story. This is not that funny, but this is relevant to the special, because if you go into the comments on the special, you'll see a lot of people claiming that I'm borrowing Bill Burr's persona, which, you know, they don't understand that middle-aged, northeastern, angry white guys have certain similarities in their cadence. But anyway, I've also been doing comedy since 1997, so you'll get a lot of Irish people in the comments that are like, "What are you fucking on about? This guy's been talking like this since the Celtic Tiger in Ireland." But anyway, this guy, the owner of the restaurant who was concerned, comes up to talk to me while we're waiting for the ambulance. And he goes, and he doesn't know I'm a comedian, by the way. Only the black couple know I'm a comedian. The owner goes, "You know who you remind me of? Bill Burr." It's like, I said, "That's funny because I'm a comedian." But of course, then I didn't realize that, the comments were going to be lit up with people saying I sound like Bill Burr. But anyway, the owner of the restaurant goes, "Oh, you remind me of Bill Burr." And I actually did then start doing my shitty Bill Burr impersonation for that guy. But anyway, that's really the end of that. Right? That's more than I intended to say in this story. Hannah tells the story a little differently, but she also has the closer of her bit, which is also 100% true, is that the ambulance came and they explained that I wasn't having a heart attack, and I actually declined to go in the ambulance because then you're like in the system, and once I knew I wasn't having a heart attack, I felt like there's just no point in going to the hospital. But they can't advise you to decline, but, they sort of hinted that if I declined, it wouldn't be a big deal. So when I was walking out of the restaurant, I did turn to the entire restaurant and say, it wasn't the food, and I actually got a bit of a laugh. So that Hannah kind of ends it on that. But anyway, that is that is all the truth with all the admissions of the bending of the truth. And leave a like and subscribe. I'm not really like a YouTuber, but like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing these not just with the bits from the special, but I've got a lot of bits over a long time. And some of these Irish bits, if you're not Irish, these Irish bits will make no sense to you. So it'll actually be fun to explain why things are funny. If this is interesting, of course, if it's not interesting, you don't have to watch the rest of them. But do like and subscribe. But more importantly, leave a comment. If you're familiar with my work, leave a comment on what bits perhaps you would want me to sort of break down, and also leave a comment about like what you find interesting or useful on this. I mean, I'm not trying to do this as like a comedy tutorial, but if there are some comedians watching about the breakdown of joke, maybe in some of them I will get into the breakdown of jokes a bit more. And actually, now that I mention that, let me just quickly say, one of the issues I had in the edit of this special was that this, a lot of the earlier bits are, they're a bit more sort of self-contained, whereas this vaccine bit, it has like a lot of, it's not even a vaccine bit, by the way, but it begins with the story of the vaccine, and it sort of lives with that hanging over it for the entirety of the bit. And I keep bouncing out of it, sort of Billy Connolly style. I keep bouncing out of the sort of place and going into these other bits. The first bit is the Desmond Tutu bit. The second bit is the circumcision bit. And actually, sorry, I take it back. Even before I get to the phone call, I also crowbarred in an old routine which had been modernized about having testicular cancer. So actually, from the moment I mentioned I got a vaccine, I used the fact that I got vaccinated early to talk about testicular cancer, which I'll go through the whole testicular cancer saga another time. Anyway, all I'm saying is that one of the things I hate about the modernization of stand-up comedy by virtue of clips and TikTok and Instagram, Facebook Reels, is that the ability to have a story that's interwoven and comes back and refers back to things, not just callbacks. Callbacks are great, but they're a cheap trick, and I'm a big fan of a callback. Don't worry. But what I'm saying is that, like, if all it is a callback, I feel like it's not a very sort of like healthy bit. I feel like it's a little empty. But like a callback is a worthy addition to like a solid bit. You know what I mean? But it's not just about callbacks. It's about bits making sense as they relate to other bits. And I do feel that there's some awesome bits that are just longer. I think the Americans always call it like long form bits, but like some of that is being lost a little bit in modern stand-up just because it doesn't suit the clipping. So when I was doing the edit of the special, like that was actually a concern of mine. But then I also thought, well, actually, this is a special. That's the great thing. Like, why still do an hour special if people are getting so much bang from their buck from clips? But it's like, hey, this is actually not the OG, but it's one of the older forms of putting a show together. And if there are at times a narrative connector throughout parts of the special or all of the special, that can be quite rewarding for the viewer. So I'm glad that we still make specials because it would be a pity to lose that. So if you are somebody thinking about stand-up and you're somebody that's inclined to like that style, I wouldn't 100% let it go. I feel like there's pressure to not be that, especially in America. And in the end, you will find that a lot of times they clip better than you think. And I've gotten good mileage out of a lot of these bits. However, when I tried to clip the name story, I found it very hard. The shortest I've been able to get that clip down to is 3 minutes. I can't get it into the 90-second reel. And so the name story is it's a story that only exists in the long form. And obviously I can't tell the heart attack story without telling that story. But even when I tried to do that on stage, where I would do the name, I do the Desmond Bishop bit, having a black name, and then I would add on the heart attack story. But like, I feel like it's almost unbelievable, and it just didn't have that much of a punch because I feel like everybody saw it coming. Because in that context, it's like you're telling the story, and now you're telling like a black couple. It's kind of like it's very obvious and almost like the same. But I think it's funny because it's fucking real, and so that's why I'm sharing it with you guys and try to get this YouTube going. So like I said, like and subscribe. We'll be on again soon. And thanks for watching the special. If you haven't watched the special, watch the whole special. And we'll talk to you soon.